Hi everybody at Church Universal and Triumphant. It's Ben at CUT and also the Summit Lighthouse. Namaste. Here to continue the video that I started earlier, actually a couple of days ago. Normally, I shouldn't say normally, sometimes when I open these videos I use a prayer that I learned a while ago from a Lakota tribe. This was years ago when I was quite young, in fact, and it's the light of God surrounds us. It begins with the light of God surrounds us, the love of God enfolds us, and so on. But if you take it apart, it kind of looks like it corresponds to the threefold flame, because it mentions the light of God, the love of God, and I think the power of God. Let me think for a minute. Well, we have love, light, we have love, wisdom, and power, which are the three principal parts of the threefold flame, correct? And they mention all three of those. They don't say wisdom, I think they say presence instead of wisdom, but still, they mention actually four: light, power, love, and I think presence. I think it's light, love, power, and presence. But it could be adapted for use at CUT, so I find it interesting. But generally put, you'll find a different convocation, I think that's the word for it, opening prayer on the web, and I can show you where those are. And as a matter of fact, if you get online and go to the encyclopedia, or rather go to whatever source, a lot of people who are even long-standing communicants, I think, might not even know about the encyclopedia. I think it's because I'm in this all the time that I have access to all of these resources, which is great. And I'm here to be used to be relied upon as a resource, to be certain. But I'll give you an example, and sometimes it's to Darjeeling, the temple at Darjeeling. The prayer will refer to that, or sometimes it's to another temple. I think the Temple of Truth might be one, over Crete and so forth. And it depends upon the master, but they're all pretty similar with a few variations. But I will tell you, because what I'm interested in right now, for when you all have the momentum to each contribute somewhat modestly, I think, financially to a church, and I am able to open a church up here so that whoever wants to come up, I don't care where you're from or who you are, whoever wants to come up can come up here and worship here in Maine, and be in community up here, live here, own a home here. That's my goal, is really for everybody to live in a specific community that I picked. Well, one of two specific communities that I picked out in the Gardner and West Gardner area in Maine. And I want to be clear because I don't want to confuse people. I know that a lot of people, even when I talk to people in Central America, I have Catholic friends. I'm trying to sort of court their interest, or I'm trying to court my Catholic friends, or draw my Catholic friends in to CUT. We're not Roman Catholic, but we have some similarities with, certain. We share a path that is similar to those of the path of certain RC adherents. When you folks come up here, don't be confused. It's Gardner, Maine, Gardiner, but there's also a Gardner, Montana, and in fact, King Arthur's Court is located in Gardner, Montana. It's not a common name. There are only about, I think, 4 or 5 towns in the entire United States that have that name. But coincidentally, my church as a child, when I was growing up and being raised in Maine, was in Gardiner, Maine. You folks, I was converted to CUT by Elizabeth Clare Prophet. The ranch is in Montana, in a town called Gardner, and I grew up in Gardner, Maine, and went to church in Gardner, Maine as a child. And that church, first of all, you'll find a picture of it posted on my website. Secondly, it's a Roman Catholic church and not a CUT church. But thirdly, it's St. Joseph, who is Germain. So it's all tied together in this big sort of cosmic spiral. Upward spiral, not downward spiral in this instance, but positive, in a positive, I don't want to say, let's see, how do I put it? It's really the Master's communicating to us that it's time to integrate, and so on, and also time to enthrone Germain as Saint Joseph, the father of Jesus, So, correct. That's my mission, is to get people to come up here. So there's that effort, which is to, years ago, the 5 or 6 different Roman Catholic parishes in the area decided that, somewhat independently, for better or worse, that they would become St. Michael's Parish. Of course, we revere St. Michael as well as the patron archangel of the first ray, correct? The blue ray. St. Michael is the archangel with his archaea being faith, archaea faith. One thing to bear in mind, however, that I think I bring to this for the first time, I've never seen it recorded elsewhere at CUT or the Summit Lighthouse, is that faith, Michael is the one saint in all of Catholic doctrine who was an angel. There's one Saint Michael. He's the only. I don't think they say Saint Raphael or Saint Uriel. They don't. They say Saint Michael, but he's the one saint in all of Christendom that was an angel. He never was a human being. He's always been an angel, Saint Michael. And I'd like to bring that to you, and I'd like to incorporate that into what we're doing up here in Maine. But it really is dependent upon you. It's really dependent upon all of you generating the momentum. I don't personally care whether it's through my work or through some other path, but the impression that I get is that a lot of people are going to find inspiration in my work, because I rely directly on your experience, your preferences, and your tradition within your particular version of the church, if you will. I think it's individuated for every single person who has an individual flame. Well, every human being on the planet does have an individual flame, but I think that the experience, yes, it's individuated. I will say also, though, that it's definitely its own religious CUT. As you know, the Summit Lighthouse, we're all listening to Mother, is its own faith. But I think it's time that we, have a church up here in this district, this area, this province. We're in the province of St. Joseph. I mentioned in another video that I'm also a member of the Dominican Friar. The Dominican Friars run the Confraternity of the Most Holy Rosary, and I was inducted into that after requesting to be inducted. I mentioned in another video, if you look at my St. Patrick's Day video, I was inducted formally on the feast day of Our Lady of Lourdes. Also, in French, you say Lord, but it was, Lourdes is an apparition of Saint Mary to a saint in France, and there's a huge cathedral there, and thousands of people visit there annually to go to the healing waters. There are healing waters there. And I'll mention this really quickly too. Madonna, the pop singer Madonna, is very religious, and some of you might know that she's a Kabbalist. What I encourage you to watch, I have. It's interesting. A couple of days ago, a woman who was new to TSL, and she's from Montana, got on my board and asked me what I watched for Netflix. And I think it's because she probably knew that I was really active in the media, and but so I gave her some recommendations. Why did I mention her? We mentioned the Healing Waters. Well, we have a Healing Waters project at the ranch. Maybe that's it. Mother Mary's Healing Waters. But Madonna, the pop star, named her daughter Lourdes, which is Cuban. The pronunciation Lourdes is Cuban, she said. But she mentioned the cathedral in France, and she referred to it as having quote-unquote healing waters, and it does have healing waters in France, and it's actually Saint Bernadette was visited by the Virgin Mother. So this is a separate miracle from the apparition to the children at Fatima, the 3 children at Fatima, one of whom was Saint Francisco, correct? And Saint Lucia, as I mentioned in my video on Fatima, is I believe an embodiment of Surya, but that hasn't been really vetted formally by the ranch yet. However, I believe it is accurate Dharma. So I did mention it to you folks in that video, and I commend that video to you. Madonna, watch the video. I can make even a short list for you people, or if you're seriously interested in what I think is hot for media, or is going to inspire you or compel you, or what I rely upon for media. I will make a short list for you of the 10 best things to watch, and that is definitely on my list, because she describes herself as a Kabbalist. Check this out. She describes herself as a Kabbalist, okay? And she talks about her career, and she talks about her briefly about her faith. She named her daughter Lourdes after that other miracle that I mentioned. And but if you listen to what she says, a lot of it is consonant with the teachings of Mark and Mother, and the true dispensation as we present it to the world. You know, the Lotus Sutra, as I like to call it, and so on. So watch that, and it's the interview. There are plenty of great Madonna interviews. I have another point to make, but there are plenty of great Madonna interviews. But the best one is the interview, the full length, the full hour interview with Larry King, which I can post for you maybe in the lower part of this. When I get it on YouTube, I can post it to you there. But rather, I can post it for you in the notes. But the other interesting point that I wanted to tell you people, and I have the Eye of Moria is upon you, all of you CUT people who have been longstanding members since Washington and so forth, right? Living in the Causey Mansion in Washington, D.C., when Mark was still around and all of that, and I know who you are. Those people were the early, really ardent followers with the heart flame fully active, or, you know, and the secret chamber of the heart fully activated, and all the chakras working and so on. Why did I bring up Washington? Let me think for a minute. Madonna. Oh, back in the day, we used to ban rock stars with whom we disagreed. Aaron Prophet's right about that. I won't say that we prayed to hurt people or to exclude people from the church necessarily, but Mother identified in at least one ceremony that I personally witnessed over the web, but it was something that I received directly from the Ascended Masters Library. It was basically a sermon that prayed, you know, a lecture that in a service. Praying away the dark momentums of rock music. It was dedicated to the destruction of rock music, which is a satanic force on the planet, and described certain rock singers in embodiment now. I can name a few off the top of my head, as either being infected by a fallen angel or having a fallen angel ruling over them. And we prayed them away. Madonna was on that list back in the 80s. My presentation to you folks, because I know that you're so open-minded and wonderful, is that she's made her she's made amends, and she's done her penance, and wants to be included in our effort. If you look at the video with Larry King, as I stated about the chilling adventures of Sabrina, her recounting of her experience being raised Catholic and then having an experience with Kabbalah, and how she met her Kabbalah guru, is very similar to our experience, kind of to a shocking degree. So sure, we prayed her away in the 80s, but now I think she's somewhat heroic, which is why I'm going to include like clips of her here. I don't follow the Kabbalist guy to whom she refers. I know that there's a bigwig Kabbalist teacher / rabbi in New York or Los Angeles. I don't have time because I'm so embedded in this. But watch the interview. And Lourdes, right? And we call it in French. We call it Lourdes. That's a separate cathedral out, you know, in whatever district it's in France. Not Fatima, Portugal. It's a separate apparition that is very famous. So famous, in fact, they built an entire cathedral over it. So, and I can tell you more about Saint Bernadette as well. There are films about Saint Bernadette. One of them is quite good, and I think was nominated for a couple of Oscars. It's, I think, done in the 30s or 40s. I think maybe no later than, I know it was no later than the 50s. It was like the 40s or the 50s. Yeah, I can provide links to that as well, I'm certain. And I hope I concluded my original point, but I don't really know. Oh, I wanted to give you a prayer. Let me see if I can find the prayer. And it's really the prayer that begins